There we go. All right. Now I think we're live. Hey, welcome to the YouTube subscribers live stream number 2. We are going to have a special guest today to talk about remote viewing. Orphan Red will be joining us very soon. And looks like I have Ricky, or I did have. Where'd he go? Oh, you're still there. Right on. I'm going to have Ricky come on and we're going to talk a little bit about PK and see what he's been up to, maybe share a video or two, and then we'll get right into it. See if I got you on there. All right. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Sweet. And are you looking on YouTube? Are we live on YouTube, I guess?
Yeah, we're live on YouTube.
Sweet. All right. So what have you been up to, man?
Nothing. I just been doing the live streams. Yesterday I got done doing a TikTok stream, and that went pretty good.
Oh, nice. Did some
And
live TK demo?
yeah, I did one. I never did it before, but I did one where I have the inverted side wheel, and I'm having it spin continuously, with my energy, and I'm able to stop it, on demand, like with one hand. So and then I make it go spin again and stop it, and like so. But I just already learned that, so I still had to like practice it to get it down good. But that's what I was doing. So I have a video actually, that maybe we can see later or whatever you want. I have a video of it.
Throw it in the chat. We'll watch it right now.
Okay, let me
I
find
was
it
going to do a
first.
couple of those. Give Sasha plenty of time to get the pre-show jitters, all that. Hope
Okay.
everyone's doing well. We'll give a shout out to the people in the chat. See what we got here. An electric back channel is here. Thanks for joining us. Jay
Right.
Mystic is in the house. We got Benny. Hello, Benny.
Hello, Benny.
And I think we have some other viewers, but they're not talking in the chat. Do
Yeah.
what? Did you put it in there?
Yeah. Let me just get it real fast. Cause I
Yeah, no worries.
cause I copied it, but then I was pasting a lot.
Hey, if you're watching, just say hi in the chat or something so we know you're here. Know you're live.
Okay. Let me see. I'm coming back now. And let me see if I can in a chat real fast.
Okay.
And there it is right there. I don't know if you can see it.
Not yet. It's a little bit of a delay here. Did you put it in the private chat or?
Yeah, in the private.
Okay. Yeah, I see it. Copy
But
that.
it's a real good one. I think you'll like it.
Nice. Okay. Let me scroll back up here where I can see what I'm doing. There's that.
It has the intro and all that stuff too.
Nice. Hey, real quick, I've got this one already queued up.
Yeah.
Let's okay, so I think I mispronounced his name. I was saying Hugo Logo. It's Hogo Logo.
Hogo
I'll go
logo.
quick.
I know.
And he sent me a comment and said that this was his favorite demonstration. So I want to share that with you. It's a really quick one, and then we'll go check
Yeah.
out Ricky's.
Yeah, it's okay.
Do what?
It's cool. Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah, that's a
That's what I'm
cool one.
seeing again. I haven't messed with this, and I don't know if it's like wedged on there, and he's pushing it off, or what the heck is going on. Papa Doodle, is that cool or what?
Yeah.
Anyway,
It's
another shout out to Hogo, and thanks for letting us share your videos on my live streams. I appreciate that. All right,
yeah.
let's take a look, see what Ricky's got going on here.
Tell me what you think.
Nice intro.
Hello, everybody. It's Rick Sisbis, my kids. I'm here to show a demonstration of my chi energy and telekinesis. I'm going to spin this inverted side wheel. I'm going to control it by making it stop and go on wheel on demand.
Stop.
Right there. Stop.
Sweet.
Go.
Yeah. Making it go right there. And I'm using my intention, my energy, chi energy, and telekinesis to make it stop and go on demand. I've already done a live stream on TikTok doing this too.
Stop.
Right there, man. Stop again.
Go.
And I'll do another live stream where I do a little bit more better and improved version of this. This is a good demonstration here, but I'll do another one next time. I always do a lot of live streams. You can also do this 3 feet, 6 feet away.
Almost looks like it's levitating. That's so
I
cool.
know.
Over time, you
Yeah.
can do this further away. This is just training. It's up close. On live streams, I always show everything around me. There's no air conditioner, no fan, nothing affecting. It's all me. Everything is off. On my live streams, I always do it. You could always do this 3 feet, 6 feet away. Over time, you can do it further away.
Yeah.
That is too cool, brother.
Yeah. Thank you. And
Congratulations.
I know that some people might think that like maybe I'm using my legs to stop it or something, but I've also shown on my live stream, like I showed it like over top, and it shows like there's a big gap and stuff, so it makes it spin. I stop, so like I'm not cheating, but people might think that way,
Right?
Well,
What kind of feedback do you get on your live streams? Are there people like commenting or anything?
No, yeah, like a lot of people comment, and you get like a little bit of everything. You get a lot of skepticism. You get a lot of people thinking that you're crazy and that you're weird, and you get a lot of people that are amazed, and it's just like a little bit of everything. But it's pretty cool, though.
Yeah, that's neat to be able to just do it live, man. That's great.
Yeah,
They get a lot of people's wheels turning. They're thinking, "Holy crap, there must be something to this."
yeah. But I just wanted to share that with you.
Yeah, I'm glad you did. And I think you said you invited, hey, Capricorn One, welcome to the show. You said you invited a few people from your community. So I wanted to go ahead and be sure and bring you on, let them know they're on the right live stream. And I really like Ricky, and we like chatting and stuff. I'm going to share one more thing. I shared this in the members video, but I want to share it with the community as well. A guy has developed a way to practice your.
Hi, this is Sean McNamara.
To practice. What's the word I'm looking for? What's he call it?
The Ricky thing or what?
Like a telepathy thing, yeah. And he's developed this card little thing. I haven't ordered it yet, but I've got it on my list of things to buy, and I'm going to get it, and I want to share it. Anybody out there who's wanting to work on ESP, go check out this guy's channel and maybe order this thing. I'm going to let him do the talking here. I'll be back in just a minute.
From mindpossible.com. And this is my second video talking about telepathy and how you can use my system
and receive to train yourself and your friends in your telepathic abilities, meaning reading someone else's mind. To create this video, I've actually hired actors to help us set the setting for using multiple people, multiple teams to use send and receive. So to set the stage, I'll describe how you would typically start playing it. Even though it's not really a game, it's a training system, I refer to it as a game, and so did the actors who actually experienced it for real. One way to use send and receive is that one person would be the sender, and the others would be the receivers, and they would sit far away from the sender. And the sender would draw 4 cards from the pile, from the send and receive deck, and then spontaneously look at only one of them. That person would begin to focus on the image, using any memories that arise, any feelings, sensations, or focusing on the primary color of the card, any sounds and tastes that might be attributed to the image on the card. And they would focus on it, make it come alive in their imagination, and intend to send the information out to the receivers for them to perceive in their subtle mind. Meanwhile, the receivers are in a very relaxed state. Perhaps they have their eyes closed, and they're just waiting for very subtle impressions to come up in their consciousness. When the time is right, perhaps after a couple of minutes, the sender would shuffle the 4 potential images without looking at them, walk over to the table where the receivers are sitting, and then lay out the 4 images. Then the receivers spend a few moments looking over the 4 images to see which one could potentially be the one that the sender was sending to them at the beginning of the session. And the next part could be done 2 different ways. Either the sender could just point to the card that they were sending, or each of the receivers could take turns pointing to the card they think that the sender was sending and explain why. What were they picking up? Were they getting colors, feelings? Was a memory coming up for them? And that way you get to learn about the other people in the room and how they think and feel and a little more about their background. And then when the time is right, the sender can indicate the card that was actually being sent to the receivers.
That's the one that immediately when I flipped over. Yeah. Right?
Which one was it?
Another way to use the system, let's say 2 couples are playing, is for one of the couples to be the sender. So 2 people would go to the sending table, they would draw the 4 cards and randomly choose one of them, and both people would stare at the one card. And perhaps they could whisper to each other, deciding on one single word that they would use to transmit the information, one word that describes the card perfectly. Or they could just, in their own way, think of memories, feelings, sensations, smells, and tastes that each one of them wants to send out to the receiving couple. And then again, after a few minutes, they would come over with the 4 potential images, lay them down on the table, and the other couple would indicate which card they think it is, and then the senders would reveal which one it actually was. Now, as I said earlier, I hired paid actors to make this video for me, but we actually did use the system in the course of producing this video.
I know you think in colors. I just kept saying white.
Yes,
white,
and I can see,
white.
I saw white. And it's really interesting because I'm not clairaudient, but I'm very visual, but for some reason today it's about colors.
I knew that, so I just kept judging the word white.
Okay, so yeah, white, purity. Is that the Taj Mahal?
It is.
That's where I want to go one day. Can I?
Same thing. Colors kept coming towards my vision.
And asked them to share with us how they actually feel. So this part is not acting. Asked for their real impression after using the system together just for a brief period of time.
How cool is that?
Yeah, that's a cool.
So check out his channel, and if you're interested in developing your ESP skills, I think that card deck would be an awesome way to get the ball rolling. Have you messed with any of that, Ricky?
No, but it seems like something I'll be interested in getting into.
Yeah, I think so too. And all you guys out there, if you're practicing PK or maybe you're not having any luck at telekinesis, there is a psychic ability in you somewhere, and maybe remote viewing or telepathy or ESP or something is going to be your jam. So don't be afraid to keep trying different things. I know a lot of people get frustrated with the telekinesis, but all the psychic abilities are somewhat related. And if you can just get one opened up and unlocked, it'll give you some confidence, and it'll awaken your subconscious, and get you kind of primed to learn other psychic abilities. I've been messing with levitation this week. Nothing worth showing, but I'm always trying to mess with something different. And I'm going to get into some ESP, and probably Sasha's going to get me so fired up about remote viewing.
Yeah.
Probably going to do a little bit of remote viewing in the weeks to come too. Anything else you want to say, Ricky, before we bring Sasha on?
No, I guess that's just it. I just wanted to share that with you and just chat for a little while,
Man, I appreciate you. And if you're not busy on the 7th, please join us for the members live stream.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, buddy. It's good seeing you.
Take care, everybody.
See you. All right. And with no further ado, I think we should bring on our special guest right about now. Hey, there she is. All right. So good to see you. How you doing?
I'm doing well. It's so nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much for being here. So for the people who don't know you, could you give us a little bit of background? How'd you get into this stuff? Who are you? Where are you from? All that good stuff?
Sure. So I have been a YouTuber for quite some time. I've been kind of on the fringes of various conspiracy theories. I really enjoy conspiracy theories, and I've been in the conspiracy theory community since I was very young. I think when I was 13, I was already reading all the alien books at the library and those kinds of things. And so I got into remote viewing, I think 7 or 8 years ago now. I just found it on YouTube. I was interested. It was kind of strange, and I didn't really know if it would work or not. And I tried it with Mount Baldy, I think was the YouTube channel. Do you remember that channel? I don't know if it still exists.
That doesn't ring a bell. No, I'm sorry.
I think it was Simeon Hine. And he just had these free videos, very, very basic. And I did it more on a lark because I didn't think it would work. And I went along, he was saying, okay, describe whatever impressions are coming through now. And so I went through it. And then when he did the reveal, I had actually described the image that he revealed. So that got me very interested. And then from there, I ended up doing remote viewing training. I think it's kind of like a Monroe Institute satellite office here in Canada on Vancouver Island. And Paul Elder teaches remote viewing there. And so I went to his 1-week immersive remote viewing training, and it was fascinating and it was amazing. And from there, I started going to the conferences, the IRVA conference, which is the International Remote Viewing Association conference, the Society for Science Exploration. They're a little bit more science focused. It's a lot of academics who kind of dabble in sci when no one's looking, right? And and I just found that the more involved I got, the more my skills developed. I learned how to do some spoon bending from Sean McNamara. So Sean McNamara, that was the Mind Possible video you just played.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot to say his name.
Sean McNamara, yeah, he's amazing. So I learned how to do some spoon bending from him. And then I have a psych degree. So I've always kind of been interested in human psychology and what motivates behavior, but more so what our capacity is, how we learn, and how that the brain works. And so I think remote viewing is even more interesting to me because it's something that psychology never talks about. We don't talk about parapsychology, right? And so recently I just finished my training in HRVG, which is the Hawaiian Remote Viewing Guild's version of remote viewing. And now I'm in one of their working groups and I'm learning so much. So yeah, so that's my story. So I come more from the remote viewing side. That's how I stumbled into the reality of psi ability, psychokinesis, telekinesis. And I've been watching your channel for years now, I think. So yeah.
That's
I love
awesome.
you too. Yeah.
So you're in Canada?
Yes.
Oh, I've never heard you talk about anything that made me think you're in Canada. That's cool. I just assumed you were from the States. That's neat. All right. So an international live stream we got going on here, people. I'm going to charge double what I was charging now.
Exactly.
So just for people who have no idea what remote viewing is, can you kind of just describe what it is? And then we'll get into the how to and maybe how you think it works and that sort of thing. But what in the world is remote viewing? What does that mean?
I'm so sorry. I always assume, that the people that are in the psi community are kind of aware of all the different channels, but it's really not true because, as well for myself, I knew of some of the things that existed, but not all of them. So remote viewing, it's actually remote perception. So it's when you follow a protocol. So there are different protocols. There's controlled remote viewing. There's the Hawaiian remote viewing. There's associative remote viewing where you're kind of pairing things. But at the end of the day, they're all very much the same in that you're sitting quietly and you're focusing on a target that you want to perceive information about. And the target is hidden from you. You don't know anything about it other than a random string of letters that are associated with it. And then just by sitting quietly and focusing, and then you follow protocols of like, what are you sensing? What are you hearing? What are the images that are coming to mind? What are the tastes and smells that are coming to mind? And you just write it all down and you end up getting really accurate information about these remote targets based on nothing other than a random string of numbers and letters. And so that's essentially remote viewing is. So it's kind of taking psychic ability, I guess, and that everyone has, and kind of formalizing it so that people can better access it in a more reliable, predictable way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. And I have all kinds of questions. I don't have any prepared, but they're going to pop up as soon as you say stuff. Why do they assign it a number instead of, say, a name or another means of? Do you think it has something to do with the logical mind, or why are we using a numbering system instead of just saying this is target A or something like that?
So initially, when the U.S. military is the one that really created this system. Yeah, the Stargate project, if people want to look that up. And so I think when they started out, they were using coordinates. So they would only give people the coordinates, and then they would say, describe what's at this place. And the coordinates might be, maybe a Russian airbase or something, And then they realized that the viewers were starting to be familiar enough with coordinates that they kind of knew, like, okay, if this is, 40 degrees north, then it's probably somewhere in this area of the world. So they were losing that random aspect of it. And you don't want to get any information about the target, because as soon as you kind of think, okay, I know what it is I'm about to describe, then your imagination starts coming in, and your expectations and your prior beliefs. If you think, oh, this is probably a Russian air base, then everything's going to be interpreted through that lens, right? And so it's better to have something that doesn't give you any information about the target. It doesn't bias you in any way. You don't know if it's a person you're describing or a place. All you know is you have these random letters and numbers. And I think even just if you gave someone A or C or Z, first of all, that's a very limited, you only have 26 letters to go through, and then you're going to have to start repeating, right? And
Gotcha.
so you don't want to assign something to the letter A, and then 6 months later, you have a new target letter A, right? And so that's why they've just created this protocol where you just random letters and numbers. Yeah.
No, it makes perfect sense now, because you want to avoid all those preconceived ideas. And like you said, when they give coordinates, you're like, okay, I know I'm in the desert area, so now all I'm seeing is sand and camels. That makes perfectly good sense. Yeah. Now,
yeah. Well, and I'll say, in terms of biases, the way information comes through in remote viewing, sometimes it can be very literal, and sometimes it can be more metaphorical, and it depends as well on how you think the information is passing through your subconscious, right? And so it's being shaped by your view of the world. And so, for an example, if I see a chamber and there's something in the wall and the chamber is under pressure, well, I might interpret that as, oh, I think this is like a submarine, and something's breaking in through the side of the submarine, and this is a problem. But it could also be, okay, well, this is a heart, and there's a blood clot on the side of the heart, right? Those are both chambers, enclosed chambers in a pressured situation with fluid around them, right? And both have a sense of urgency. And so that's one of the tricky parts of remote viewing. That's why it can take so long to, I think, really master it. You get your training, but then you have decades of practice to do to really be able to master it, I think. And that's part of why, because the information comes through and you have to figure out how to take the information and record it without interpreting it, right? You're just trying to record it. And then you'll have an analyst who can then go and look at different sessions that are done on the same target, and they can do an analysis and figure out, okay, it looks like this person got submarine data, this person got marine data, this person was seeing whales and fish, so it's probably not the heart, it's probably the submarine.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And that's so true. We all have our own filter. We can all watch a video or read an article and walk away with a different perception of what we just saw or read. And I find that very, very similar to ESP when you're working with, well, anything, even simple ESP cards or what have you. The more blank and neutral your mind is, the more accurate they are. Because the moment you start guessing or anticipating or thinking in any way, shape, or form, the stuff just comes in, and it's up to you to catch it and just, like you said, just not put your thoughts into it. Just take it for what it is. This is all I know for sure. It's this, and go from there. And I notice when people do remote viewing, perhaps you can show some of your works. They'll just put down random things like pictures, numbers, words, smells, feelings, or whatever, and just make a big puzzle and put it, when you're putting it on there, not analyzing what it is. Just say, this is what I'm getting. I'm going to put it down here. Now I'm getting this, that type of thing. So I think the real developing of this skill is learning to be unbiased and just kind of, like you said, trying to avoid using your thoughts and your filter and everything. So what's a good way for people to avoid getting into their own minds and doing that thing? I mean, do you do meditation before you start, or do you have a certain style of thing, how your mind works, or what kind of tips can you give to newbies?
I think there are a lot of individual differences. When you're talking about the Xeno cards, if you're trying to use your ESP, it is like that. If you start thinking, I haven't had the wavy lines for a while, so wavy lines should come up pretty soon statistically, right? That's going to influence
Yep.
that comes through. And so I think remote viewing is very much the same way. I did my training in CRV, controlled remote viewing. which is a specific protocol, and you do different columns, and the data comes in different ways, and then you do some sketches. And then now I just finished my remote viewing using the Hawaiian, the HRVG, which for me works a lot better. It's a lot more visual, and the way you record the data is different, and that actually makes the data come through differently. So in the Hawaiian remote viewing, you know, you're doing your impressions, and then you're doing your sensory information, and then you're doing your sketches. That's what helps, I think. It's that you have this formal protocol, and over time your subconscious learns, instead of giving you all this information, colors and smells and tastes all at the same time, and you're trying to figure out what the hell am I seeing. When you're doing the protocol, your subconscious kind of learns, like, oh, okay, now we're just focusing on sounds, so I'll just give you some sound data. These are the sounds that are the target, and I know that later I can give you colors, so I'll give you those later, right? And so so you're training your subconscious to provide the information in a specific way so that you can record it more accurately. And so in terms of the cool down that you do before you get started, you know, it's funny because most people assume you want to be in a really calm state and meditative state. You know, you want the delta or theta brainwave states, right? And so maybe they meditate, or they listen to very calming music, or you can even listen to the delta wave frequencies on YouTube, or the theta wave frequencies where they just play that tone. But that's not for everyone, because we all have a different internal environment. You know, some people are ADHD, where they have so much noise going on inside of them that the more they quieten the outside, the louder the noise inside of them gets. And so for them, sometimes having more noise on the outside can kind of calm down the inside, right? You kind of want to reach that equilibrium. So I find, so far, I've tried different things. I think that my mood will affect what I need. Sometimes I need to listen to really kind of calming music, and sometimes I just need to be in silence and just kind of, I don't really meditate, but my version of it, just kind of quieten myself down a little bit. But sometimes I listen to very energetic, happy dance music, and it makes me feel really joyous, and I feel really happy. And then that sometimes is when I get my best sessions. I find, for me, positive emotion really helps. And by listening to the happy music and the energetic kind of music, it does calm me down in my inside, right? Because then I'm not thinking about all these different things. I have all that stimulation coming in, so it allows my inner self to kind of calm down a bit. And for me, that's when the data comes through a little bit better. So I think I would say to people, the newbies, try different things. Don't assume that what works for someone else is going to work for you. Don't assume that just because everyone else meditates and goes quiet, that's going to work for you. Maybe you need the noise. I think, was it Paul Smith? Maybe you may know this, but I think it was Paul Smith who used to listen to heavy metal before doing his sessions when he was working in the military.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and even the idea, you know, there's this really strong story in the remote viewing community that the delta waves and even the theta waves are the optimal state for remote viewing. But I've seen that there's data to support that. But there, again, even there are individual differences. And some people need to be in that dreamy, nearly sleep-like meditative space to get the information to come through. But some people, they get the information when they're more agitated. And I always think of this, you know, most of our spontaneous sigh happens when we're in moments of extreme emotion. You're either you're a parent and you feel this intense fear for your child, and you send this telepathic, like, are you okay, right? And we hear stories about this, about parents that have that know when something happens to their child. Or your sweetie, like I've had that happen with sweeties, where I just have this moment of, I need you right now. I'm in crisis, or I need help, or I'm bored to tears and I need you to come and rescue me from this boring situation. And that's where they pick up. It's when my emotion is intense. That's when I'm broadcasting at maybe my most loud brainwave state. And that's when I'm also the most receptive, I think, for me. It's when my emotions are a little bit more intense. And so I think we should be really careful about not creating religious dogma around remote viewing or around psi, even for telekinesis. I'm sure you could talk about that. You know, people have this tendency for these things that are hard, like remote viewing. It's hard to, you know, sometimes you're so on target, you're describing something perfectly and you're feeling so good, and the next session you do not so good. You know, maybe you get a lot of noise, or you describe a tower but it's actually a mountain. And so I think there's this desire to, what are the fixed rules? And if I can just get the right rule and follow it perfectly, then I will be a magic goddess, you know.
Right.
But I don't think it is that way. I think there is a little bit of unpredictability in there. And I think that that's a coping response. We don't like that unpredictability. We don't like that sometimes it's not as reliable. You don't like that sometimes you spend 10 minutes and your fork bends, and sometimes it takes 45 minutes, you know. And so I think people want to know, okay, I just listen to the Delta music. I get into the Delta state. I listen to the meditation music, and then magically that'll make it all better. I don't think it's that simple. I just don't. What do you think in terms of your experience with PK and in remote viewing?
I think it's very similar. And like you said, some people need to slow their brainwaves down and get in that calm, neutral, meditative state. And other people work better when they're excited, or, you know, it's different for everyone depending on, you know, you just need to experiment and see what works with you. You know, if the dark, dim lighting and the meditation doesn't work for your remote viewing, try, like you said, play some music, uplifting music. And I've noticed a lot of times, and I'm sure everyone's experienced this, you're not in a quiet meditative state when you think of someone and then they call you. You weren't even trying. And that's the way it is with most of the psychic abilities. Based on my experience, the less you try, the easier it works. So it's that whole game again, learning how to try without trying type thing. But you got to find what opens your subconscious mind. Maybe it's soft music, or maybe it's just, you know, I don't know. It could be different for everybody. For me, I have to slow my brain waves down. I have to get neutral. I like doing side stuff when I'm sleepy. My brain's kind of shutting down. But then again, in the middle of the day, I've had psychic experiences, like especially the phone call, or I'll think of a song and it's the next song that comes on the radio. Things just happen naturally. But when you start exercising the subconscious mind, it opens these doors up, and then you can cater to it. Like, well, I've noticed that every time I do this, it works well. So that's your thing. But I'm so glad you said that. You know, we don't want to make a dogma, or we don't want to say it's A, B, C, D, and this is exactly how you do it. And that's the only way to do it. That's not the way to approach psychic abilities. I think psychic abilities are natural, and you need to find out what's natural for you. Now, you've described a couple different ways of doing RV. And have you found that certain genders or personality types or ages, certain styles work better for certain people, where maybe somebody could cut to the chase and say, oh, I'm not doing that. I'm going with the Hawaiian version because I'm a seer, or that type of thing. Have you noticed that?
So
Or is there no way to-
well, I know from Dean Radin's research that women, what he found was that women tend to have stronger psi, but often in the opposite direction than they wanted to. So if he was telling women and men, you know, try to make the light go on, women were more likely to have an effect, but it would be that the light would actually stay off for longer, you know? And so I know that there are gender differences in terms of that kind of, I guess that would be more PK, that Dean Radin found and talked about in one of his books. But in terms of remote viewing, it's funny because HRVG is a lot more visual. That's what I like about it. There's more sketches, you see more, but I have a certain aphantasia, like I think it's called aphantasia, where I don't see things. Like if you say, you know, imagine a red apple, I have the concept of red apple, but I don't see the red apple, right? Some people actually see a red apple in their mind's eye, and some people only get the words of it, or our brains are so different. And so even though HRVG is a lot more visual, and I wouldn't have thought that visuals would be stronger for me, actually they are. And even though I'm still seeing somewhat conceptually, it's actually improving my ability to see in my mind's eye. And so I think people may be tempted to try to find the remote viewing that works better with how they think that their mind works. But sometimes I would say, try it all, try different things, see what actually works for you. You might be surprised. You know, I would have thought on paper, I'm very analytical. So CRV should probably work better for me. All the nice little columns and, you know, and I don't know, and all the pages, whereas HRVG is a lot more visual. So if you had asked me prior to the training, I would have said, well, probably CRV would be better for me. But HRVG has really opened me up. I'm a lot more accurate. A lot more information comes through. It's really surprising. And so, yeah.
There's really no way to pigeonhole it or, you know, say, hey, if you're a guy, you should start with this one. But I see what you're saying. And I know I would have to try different techniques to say which one works the best for me. I messed with this. It's probably been 7 years ago. And there was a little course on YouTube. Gosh, I forget the guy's name. I'm sure you know who he is. He seemed like he was from the military. And I tried their technique. But is there a way people can get started online for free where they can just, like, there's some websites that have some targets pre-made for you that they could go look at and practice on?
Yeah, so Daz Smith is a UK remote viewer, and he
Can you
has
spell that, please?
Yeah,
What is
first name DAZ SMITH, Daz Smith, and his website is remoteviewed.com. So REMOTEVIEWED.com. He has an amazing website, so many resources. He does amazing targets as well. He really imbues his targets with intention. So a lot of people who will try the free targets online get really good results with his targets. And he has some free resources. He has some free training. I think he has a free manual as well on there on how to do remote viewing. So I would probably start there. There's a lot online. There's the Bullseye Method through Reddit that is free, but it's not. It's more of a quick, simple, just to prove to yourself that psi works. It's not as much of a thorough. I think it's more to just kind of get the visual. I think some of the longer protocols are better to go in depth, and so. But for free resources, yeah, I would start with remoteviewed.com. And then now there are online communities, and some of them are good, some of them are bad. It's a bit of a free-for-all right now, the Wild West of remote viewing online. But you can learn a lot. And, you know, I think Brett Stewart has some free YouTube videos that walked you through. There's the website. Yeah, that's the website for Daz Smith. So he has a manual in there. He has amazing information on that website, but it's hard to find. You really have to the search tool, you have to use the search tool because there's so much there, but the menus are maybe less intuitive. But that's definitely worth looking into. Yeah.
And this is entirely free. Someone can go on here and get started. I see he's kind of what is. So if someone knew nothing about remote viewing, could they visit this website and learn enough to get started?
Yes. Yeah, it's the one that I would recommend. Yeah.
That is so awesome.
Mm-hmm.
A beginner's guide to remote viewing. Look at that.
Yes.
Remote viewing FAQ, protocols, methods, history, targets. Nice. We'll take a look at these targets.
So if you're looking for some free targets, those I think would be good. Yeah, to start out.
So how does it, I don't know, have you been to this website? So is this what you do? You click on one of these and this is going to set you up for a target, or?
No, don't click on it.
So this is your target? 1231-2203.
Yeah, so you'd pick one of those and you're going to say, okay, I'm going to do that one. So you write that number down on your piece of paper, and then you do your whole remote viewing session. And then when you're done and you're like, okay, I'm finished, then you would click on it and the image will show up, and the descriptor will show up. And
okay,
so then
spoiler alert, I'm gonna reveal the first one. I just want to see just kind of an idea of what a target is. Just don't pick this one. Or if you do pick it, you'd be like, wow, I was really good at this. 9/11 Memorial. Should there be an image here? Or do I have to click this to see what it was?
Have you clicked on it? I don't know if I'm seeing a delay.
It's the 9/11 memorial, it says, but then it has a YouTube link.
Okay, so then that would be the video would be the target.
I see.
Yeah.
Let me click this just for the heck of it and see where it takes us.
Do.
Am I sharing that? No, you guys can't see that.
No, we can't see
Okay.
the video.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's what it was. It was the 9/11 memorial. That is too cool.
Yes.
Wow, wow, wow. Okay, so guys and gals, you have no excuse. Here's some free places where you can go and learn how to do this on your own without spending any money. Just dedicate a little bit of your time and effort. And from the looks of it, there's a pretty good chunk of targets there. So several weeks worth of free practice. Thank you so much for sharing that website.
Yeah.
Now, what about people who get into this and say, hey, I'm pretty good at this. I'd like to go into a little more advanced stuff. Are there other websites where you can get some one-on-one mentorship and that type of interaction? Or do you have to go to one of these seminars?
There's a lot of paid training.
Who's the best, in your opinion?
Our HRVG, by far, I would say HRVG. Having done the CRV training, paid training, and the HRVG by far. And so that's through the HRVG website right now. I think Sita is the woman who's doing the training for HRVG right now. And there are two reasons why. One, I just to me, it's just made my remote viewing so much better. It's just I'm in a whole different universe now of remote viewing with HRVG. And secondly, you can get CRV training. There's so many of these trainers, right? There's all the Monroe Institute related or associated trainers. And then Lori Williams, who was Lynn Buchanan's protege, she's doing training. The IRVA, the International Remote Viewing Association, on their website, they have some training that they're offering as well. Which is not as expensive. There's some individuals, there's so many different types of remote viewing that are all kind of very similar at their core, but they're kind of variations. But what I've found anyway, is that all the other ones don't have very much support when you're done. They still have their Facebook or the forum or the group signal or whatever, right? But there isn't really support. Once you're done your training, there you go. Merry Christmas, you're done, right? Whereas with HRVG, when you're done, you can join the working group where you get weekly targets. You're still learning. You still get feedback. You're part of a community. We have weekly meetings that you can attend to talk about your session. We have access to extremely good remote viewers. The crypto viewing. I don't know if you're familiar with crypto viewing, but I
heard you speak of it on Jeranism, but yeah.
Okay, so they have a Patreon, they have a YouTube channel. They make videos about both cryptos, but also esoterica, the mysteries, ancient aliens, archaeology, all kinds of things, right? Those kind of really cool topics that we all really love. And so they're really good remote viewers. They're a really good team, the crypto viewing team. And so with HRVG, we have access to some of those viewers and they mentor us. And so, I finished my training months ago now, but I'm still on a weekly basis. I'm getting great targets to work, and then I'm getting feedback, and I can ask questions, and I get really great answers. So to me, that makes a difference, because with CRV, I did my training, I was finished my training. And yes, of course, there's that whole, email us whenever you want. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. But you don't really, right? You're not going to email someone a year later and be like, I have this question about interpretation of data. And so with HRVG, you get that support. So I think that's the main difference I'm seeing. There are also communities online that are forming up to provide that support between students of these other remote viewers, or between people who haven't had any formal training and are just trying to learn it by themselves, right? I think it's a blessing and a curse. You learn a lot. You might learn some bad habits, but you'll also learn some great habits. But you don't really always know what you're getting. So that's right. That's, I guess, the price of admission, is that you might sometimes you get good tips, sometimes you're getting bad tips, but at least it's free. But that's yeah. So, but that's why I would say for the paid versions, I think I was disappointed with the CRV, even though the training was great, because afterwards, then you're just alone in your room doing remote viewing and trying to find targets, and then, you know, you get your feedback and yay, or oh, I didn't do so well, and then that's it. And I think it's really easy when there isn't that kind of a community sense to it, to just get busy doing other things. But when you have a community that meets regularly, then it's easier for it to stay central in your life, right?
I think that would be one of the most important parts, is having someone go over your reading and help you analyze, think, well, you put raindrops, but really what your subconscious was trying to tell you was just water, that type of thing. Somebody just kind of, a critical eye of someone who's experienced it doing it, going over your results, especially when you're learning. So let's say next time this comes in, be more vague. Don't specify that it's a drop of water. Just, I know it's wet, it's water. That type of thing. Just somebody that would kind of help you understand your subconscious mind. I know everyone is different, but there's got to be a knack to it. It's just like with any psychic ability. There's little knacks to it, everything, and you can figure out how to kind of hack it, sort of, or set yourself up for success. How to make it. Let's make this simpler and easier. I don't want to put you on the spot or anything, but is there any way you could show, like maybe one of your, I don't know what sessions, I guess you would call it, and just kind of walk people through, and then maybe show the target at the end, or are you not prepared to do that?
I could, yeah, okay, I can. You'll have to kind of fill in the silence as I find a file. I did do one recently for a paying client who is starting a YouTube channel about, he kind of wants to do it on different topics, but he wanted to do something on remote viewing. So one of the other members of the Hawaiian remote viewing working group was contacted by him, and so he brought me on as the remote viewer, and it was amazing. There's this thing with remote viewing: the more there's a need for the data, sometimes the better the data that comes through. So if you're doing a session and the target is, I don't know, there was one on a free site when I was just dabbling by myself, and I spent half an hour doing a remote viewing session, and it ended up being a phone on a desk, like an office phone. I don't know I can't remember whose website. It was one of the prominent remote viewing gurus. It was on their website, and I just thought, like, the colors are gray and dark gray and beige, and the shapes are rectangular with square rectangular keys on the phone. Like, that, it was such a terrible target.
That is a terrible target. Yeah, you need something big, something that's going to make a splash, Telephone? Oh, come on.
And so you want targets that your mind is going to find compelling. And I find for myself, especially, if the target is too boring, and this is something I'm working on, I have to work on it, then if it's not boring, but if it's boring to me, sometimes my subconscious will go and describe the movie I'm going to watch later that day after I get my feedback, right? That's happened to me a couple times now. Actually, just happened to be this past week where I described, and I never do the whole pyramids thing, but I did the whole pyramids thing. And I thought, I don't think that we'd be given this target because it's such a cliche, but that's the data that came through. So, okay, pyramids things. And the target had nothing to do with pyramids. And I just thought, oh, what a miss. And then after the meeting, I go to my subscription feed and I click on the first video from like new subscription, right? And it's all about the pyramids. It's this pyramid off La Palma. And all the visuals that were in the video, I was like, that's exactly what I was describing. So that's one of the things I'm working on right now is not to let my subconscious go describe what's interesting. Just describe what's interesting about the target.
That is so true. Yeah, even doing psychokinesis or ESP, I noticed that my subconscious gets bored. I got online, and there's several of them out there where you can go in and do like Zenner cards online or other ESP tasks. And I noticed if you spend more than 5 or 10 minutes with it, it starts dropping off. Your hits are like I'm getting worse. The more I practice, the worse it gets. That's not the case. It's like you said, you get bored with it, or the subconscious mind gets bored with it. So if you can keep it fresh and new, or keep your sessions short and frequent rather than big, long, drawn out, really trying type sessions, I think you'll get better results in all the psychic abilities that way. Keep it interesting, keep it fun, keep it short and sweet. When it's working, keep going, and if you start getting frustrated, then that's obviously you're not in the right frame of mind to be practicing. So that's something to keep in mind. But I know a lot of people watching have never seen, like, what do I write? Should I do my colors first, or should I do my pictures, or just whatever pops into my mind? It was really helpful that this show you did on Jeranism, where you went through and walked through some of those sessions and kind of showed how the information comes in and how you interpret it, then how you put it all together and say, this is what I think it is. And that's kind of something I'd like to share with people if it's not too much trouble. I would like to share that part. I know a lot of people haven't seen that. Maybe people on YouTube could type in the chat if you've had experience with RV, and I'm talking about not recreational vehicles, but remote viewing. If you've done it, if you know what it is, if it interests you, or any questions you might have, go ahead and put them in the chat.
And so, can I share my screen here, or how does that work?
I've never been on your side of StreamYard, so I don't know. In the backstage, can you see on my end? I have buttons that just say present, and under present is share screen.
Okay, let me try this. Oh, will it automatically share my whole? I'm just gonna hide my bookmarks tabs so that people don't know what weird.
No, you get to select which tab before it actually shows it.
Okay, so let's see.
An Electric Bank Channel said I did it with tarot cards and another person. And that's funny you said that, because I tried this I have a sister who lives in Kansas City, and I didn't know much about it, and I thought I was just going to try something simple. So I said, I just want you to draw or write letter, symbol, number, picture, anything you want on a piece of paper, fold it in half, put it on your fridge with a magnet, and I'm going to try to remote view your refrigerator door and see what it was. And the very first time I did it, I said I saw the number 8, but really what she had drawn was just a very generic, like petals of a flower. But if you looked at it just right, it was an 8 with an 8, So I thought, okay, I'm in the ballpark. And then my next two, way off. And then she went to numbers, and I nailed like 2 or 3 numbers in a row. And she was starting to get impressed. She's like, I don't know, you're either a really good guesser or this thing works, So I did better with numbers, which is weird because I'm not a numbers guy. I'm terrible with math and have a hard time, or used to have a hard time, digits getting flipped around. Citro says, I've had some RV experience with exclamation marks, which makes me think it was a good experience. That's good. Yeah. So there is some interest in this, and I think it has practical applications as well. I mean, the military uses, the CIA, the FBI, they can use it for missing persons, or, it does have some practical applications. So it'd be a very good skill to develop.
Yes, and I think it sharpens your intuition. And I do think it helps your other psi abilities because it increases your belief. That's something you said, I think it was last year or maybe the year before, in one of your videos, you were recommending that people watch movies with psi, because just seeing it, even if it's a movie and it's fictional, your subconscious is still seeing people using psi ability. And on some level, your subconscious doesn't distinguish movie from real life, right?
That's right.
And so it is learning that, oh, yes, okay, you can do this. Okay, so I'm going to try to share, and we'll see what happens. We'll do our best.
No worries. It's all new to me, too. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I think it'd be interesting to the viewers to let people see what an actual RV worksheet looks like. And of course, you're going to pick one that you did well on, I hope, and then you'll show us what the target was. Maybe.
Well, I'm going to pick one where the interpretation is interesting. So I think you have to add it to the.
Oh my. Okay. Now it's on me. I think I see it. Add to stream.
There you go. Okay, so
Nice.
I'm just going to kind of quickly go over it. So for people who are familiar with maybe CRV or other remote viewing, there's kind of ideograms that people do. So these are just initial sketches that you do based on your interpretations. And then HRVG, this is kind of specific to HRVG, where you kind of go through and you do your ideogram and you figure out basic information that starts to come through. And then you move on, and then you're kind of doing sketches at a very basic level. What is kind of the raw data, the first impressions that come through, and that's where you're starting to filter it out between sights and sounds and tastes and textures, and you're moving through the columns as the data comes in, and then you move it to a little bit more sophisticated. Okay, so now what's not just a basic impression, but give me something that has more meaning, give me something that has more detail, and you go through the same process again. And I am very wordy, and so my columns are always filled with a lot of words, but different people have different ways of doing that. Some people will just have one word in each column that just kind of summarizes for themselves. And then, for HRVG, then you have a phonic section, which is the words that are coming through, summary sketches. And then HRVG, then you have kind of a concentrated at the end where you're just, okay, now just give me this sketch. Now give it to me more altogether. Instead of having it all parsed out and through all the different sensory inputs, now give me the whole picture. So I did this one, and it was interesting because I was seeing these columns, these white columns, and I was like, there's something about this that feels biological. And it feels like spinal column, but I might be interpreting that, and it might actually be literal columns, Grecian kind of Greek columns. And so that one, I couldn't figure it out. And because, I was still, just kind of finished my training, still early. I still consider myself under training, even though I finished the formal training, because I'm still just learning. And so I was like, it feels biological. And if it's biological, then this is what's happening, right? And it's in this lower part of the body, or it can also be, there's these two places where it is, either lower brain and lower half of the torso, if it's a body. But then I was like, but if it's literal, then it's under the ground, it's underneath this column, right? So if it's in the body, it's underneath the spinal column, but if it's literal. And it ended up being this special new device that's implanted in the body, and they use it to create shunts. They use it in different ways in the body. And so it was actually really accurate for the body, the placement of it, and how it's used and what it does. And so, and here, this is exactly how it's used, where it's like, okay, there's something pinched here, and this feels biological. It feels like a kidney, and there's a narrow tube. The liquid is flowing through the blood or the lymph. And it's surgical. So, and this is actually what the device was. It's something that they can put into a narrowing blood vessel to hold it open so that the liquid can flow through more easily. So that's just an example that, before I got to the end, where I was deeper in the session and the information is coming through clear. So at my last page, I was like, this is clearly biological. And then I was getting the data a lot more on target, a lot more clearly. But prior to that, in the one page before that, I still wasn't certain if it was columns were the spinal column or if it was actual literal columns. So that's just an example of I think that the fascinating aspect of remote viewing, but also why you do need a lot of practice, because you learn after a while what's actually coming through. You learn to interpret, oh yeah, okay, this is biological, and it's not the literal columns. So that's why you practice.
That is very cool. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take your share away. Were you done?
No, I stopped the share.
Oh, you stopped the share. Okay, good deal. I didn't know if I clicked something wrong or not. So that's cool. So you write down, like you saw on the thing, the images that you see, you write down the words, the feelings, the smells, and then you just try to put the puzzle together at the end, sort of, so to speak.
HRVG has special techniques that I can't talk about because they're secret, and so I'm, and I see why. Actually, I think this is it's quite powerful. You can see anything about anyone. You can look at people's health. You can look at people's thoughts if they're thinking loudly. I've tried a couple of the crypto targets, and it's interesting because you're focusing on, maybe the CEO and like, what is he thinking? And is he excited next Christmas? Is he happy, or is he really depressed? Because you want to know, is the crypto going up or down?
Sure.
And so it's really powerful. And so I think part of what I like as well about HRVG is that there's a better vetting process. Most of the other remote viewers will train whoever applies as long as they're not blatantly suffering from mental illness. Whereas HRVG, I had to do an interview, a Zoom interview before I was admitted to the course, just to make sure that, because it can be destabilizing. But also, you don't want someone who is only wanting to learn remote viewing because they want to spy on their ex-girlfriend that broke their heart, And so I think you have to be responsible with how you use it. So HRVG has some top secret techniques that are in addition to the kind of that protocol. And that's what I think is actually what makes it more powerfully effective. And so... But I can't talk about it because it's secret.
Mum's the word. And I think, and perhaps this is just me, I'm the hopeless optimist, but I think psychic abilities are somewhat regulated to your morality anyway. And I think the reason we can't all do ESP, mind reading, telekinesis, all those things, because we can't be trusted with those kind of powers. You know what I mean? I think there's a fail safe somewhere in there. I think the creator certainly knows that we can develop these skills, but I also think there's somewhat of a regulator on there. Like, if you're, like you said, someone started doing remote viewing for the sole intention of stealing someone's password or spying on someone, or causing any harm to anyone, I'd like to think that there's some kind of psi angel out there that kind of regulates this type of things. Like, no, don't turn it on for that guy. He's going to be lifting skirts and pulling dollar bills out of people's pocket, that type of thing. So I don't know if that's true or not, but I can understand. And having a paywall helps you kind of weed out the bad apples. I have no problem with that. I used to think everything should be free, truth should be free, psi ability should be free, but it costs money and time and effort to do these sort of things. And you also kind of want to see who you're working with, So I have no problem with that. What kind of money would someone have to spend to go through a basic course? Just a ballpark. Are we talking hundreds of dollars, or?
Yeah, 1,500 is basic. Most of the trainers charge 1,500.
Wow. And how many sessions is this? And is this a lifetime support type thing?
Well, for the CRV that I did in Canada through the Monroe Institute, they're 1,500 US if you're an American, and then the Canadian one charges 1,500 Canadian. But I know that for the Canadian one, if you book 6 months in advance, he'll knock off 300 or something. I don't know if the American Monroe Institute does that. I think Lori Williams, Lynn Buchanan, Lynn Buchanan, I don't think he does any more personal training for the masses. I think he still does it for businesses, but I don't think he does it for the masses. I think it's Lori Williams that's taken over for that. I think she charges about 1,500 for the main course that teaches kind of everything. They, some people have free tasters that they give on Facebook. I know Lori Williams has like a free, one session that she does on Facebook. And I know John Vivanco, who teaches transdimensional remote viewing, TDS, transdimensional systems. I think that's the acronym for TDS. He had a course this last year. I think he was only charging $350 or $550 for it.
Oh, that's reasonable. Yeah. You said 1,500. It's very reasonable.
But again, those are the ones where when you're done the course, that's it, you're done. HRVG, was the same. I paid the same that I paid for CRV. I paid about 1,500, and that one has ongoing support and ongoing meetings, ongoing targets. So I think that's a better deal, to be honest. And I don't want to sound like I'm really pushing HRVG. Like I'm not getting commission to pay, but
Right.
it's been so good for me. It's been it's been such a different experience. You know, CRV, once I was done the training, that was kind of it, and then I kind of let it fall to the side and did other things for a few years. Whereas with HRVG, I'm so much more engaged, and I see more opportunity with it, and my remote viewing has advanced. So that's why I'm pushing it, not pushing it, but that's why I'm talking about it in such glowing terms, because for me, it really has been a completely different experience than other remote viewing types.
Well, that's really all we can do is share what works with us, because all we have to base our opinion on are our experiences. And I get into this conversation a lot. People with the telekinesis, they're like, I don't use any empathy, and I can talk while I'm doing it, and this works better for me. And you said to do that, and that doesn't work. I'm not saying that's the way. I'm just saying this is how I do it, and I want you to experiment. And if you have no idea where to start with the empathy mindset energy thing. That's what worked for me. But I would love it. I love watching Ricky do it. He's sitting there talking and saying stop out loud. If I start talking in the middle of a TK sessions, things quit moving. I can't really talk and do. Now maybe spinning a side wheel, something that's very energetic based. I can do, you know, lightweight stuff like that. I can do. But a lot of the things I do now, I'll spend 20 to 30 minutes and nothing moving, and a lot of people don't have that type of patience. But I know what works for me, and I know if I just stick with it, it'll work. So, yeah, don't feel bad about, saying this is the best, because that's what worked best for you. We
Yeah.
have a few comments here in the chat I wanted to read. What was it? Um, Learning energy manipulation can bring a lot of humbleness. I found that as well. Yeah, you kind of feel the omnipresence, and the less ego you have, the better the connection is. I agree with that 100%. Um, Bill Lott. Oh, Bill, you're in the house. All right. You should have a wrench by your name. If you don't, let me know. He says TRV is a tension management protocol to train the conscious mind to be quiescent, like quiet with scent on the end of it. I'm not familiar with that word. While unconscious mind does data collection. Conscious mind comes in only at the final analytic sketch, very much like RV, right?
Mm-hmm.
What you said there? Yep. And let's see. Okay, yeah, and the rest of the guys are just kind of chatting there.
I wanted to ask you something about this. You were talking about. I also would like to think that the system has a morality filter. I don't know if it does, but I would like to think that it does. But one thing that happened to me when I first came back from one of the conferences where Sean taught me how to, I moved the little tinfoil tent on the tip of a pin under a glass jar, and wow. I was able to get up from the table and move about 8 feet back, and it was spinning. And then this woman said, I can open the door if you want to go, like, leave the room even, to see if you can still affect it when you're not in the room. And as soon as she spoke to me, I turned my attention to her, and I felt this tearing. And now I'm not a lovey-dovey kind of person. I don't like talking about like heart energy. Like, that's not my thing. But I felt a tearing where my heart is. Like, I could feel the connection between myself and that little tinfoil tent tearing as my attention shifted and the tinfoil started to slow down. Until that moment, I hadn't realized the connection was there. So I was grateful for that interruption, because I hadn't realized what was happening, that there was that connection building. It was only when it tore apart that I was like, oh, that was there, that existed, and saw that the tinfoil start to slow down. And so, but when I was home and I was trying, and so the first spoon, 10 minutes, and it bent and curled, and it was amazing. And then the next one took like an hour, I think. And then at the end of the afternoon, I was all exhausted, all tired out, having spent like a whole afternoon bending all these all my cutlery. So I go to the kitchen to make a snack, and I have my spoon, and I was ladling out soup or something. And in the corner of my eye, there's this fork on my counter, all my washed dishes that I had washed earlier in the day. And I don't know, the fork just kind of called my attention. And I just picked it up playfully and I said, "Oh, do you want to play too?" And just kind of like touched it, and the thing just bent right back. The tine of the fork just bent right back. And so I don't know how to make sense of that other than to say, I think reality has to participate. I don't think we're bending something inanimate. I think our consciousness is interacting with the substrate of our reality. And I think that's why sometimes it takes 10 minutes and sometimes it takes an hour, because I think it's whenever reality decides to participate. And that fork, I'm going to anthropomorphize because it amuses me a little bit. But like that fork was like, it was in the kitchen. It was listening to me bending all these spoons and it wanted to participate, but it wasn't part of the it wasn't part of the game. And then when I went into the kitchen, it was like, pick me up, please. I would like to play. And as soon as I picked it, and I didn't even I didn't think it would bend. I was just, playful. And I was like, oh, do you want to play too? And just kind of tip. I live alone. I spend too much time alone. So yes, I did talk to my fork. But the fact that it just bent right back. I wasn't intending it to bend. I wasn't using any sigh. It was the fork. It was reality itself. And so to me, that points to something about reality participating. And so I wanted to ask you about that, because your psychokinesis is amazing. Like, I just find your powers pretty incredible. Do you find that you're needing reality to participate, or are you at the level where it's just your will is always bringing that about?
Well, it's funny you bring that up because I never thought of it from that perspective. But I've noticed I'll mess with different targets, and if one target's not working, I'll switch to something else. Like, oh, tonight's the night to do aluminum cans, type thing. So I never really put two and two together. But I am believing in that we are creators, as in our mind is what creates solidity in the matter. I think it's fueled by us, not intentionally by us, but that we are part of. I hate to use the word simulation because I don't know if it's simulation or not. But I think we are creators in the fact that if there were no human minds, I don't think a lot of this stuff would exist, type thing. So, yeah, you really got me thinking. Now I'm going to start talking to my targets a little more and being a little more, do you want to play tonight, or do you want to, and see if I can feel it out and see which targets would work the best. But no, forcing it whenever targets aren't moving, my sheer will never is enough on its own. I always have to have that empathy with the target, and I have to have my mind in the right, have the right mindset and everything. But yeah, I like that fork wanting to play. And I've come across targets, and I wonder if that's not them communicating with me. People just think, oh, you should take the lid off of that and try moving it. It would just pop into my mind, just like all psychic stuff does, uncontrollably. So that's very cool. You put a whole new perspective on things for me here. I appreciate that.
Well, and I wonder if that has something to do with that element. I spoke earlier about the kind of unreliability, or some people call it the trickster element, but the idea that sometimes you're so on target, or sometimes things bend for you so easily. Sometimes you do remote viewing, you're so accurate, and then the next time you're just not. And we always think the problem is us, and oh, I didn't listen to my delta wave music for long enough, or oh, I didn't meditate for long. Maybe it's just reality that's saying, I'm a little bit tired today and I want to be rigid, right? Maybe it's reality itself I feel like it has its own desire to participate or not, and an extent to which it wants to participate. And I think maybe some people can force it, but I think in the long run, I think it's probably better to engage it when it wants to be engaged. And I don't even know what it is, but like I do, yeah, that's my feeling.
Yeah. There's just way too many variables to say, oh, every night when I do this, my TK works. I had myself convinced I had to take Ormus 2 hours before TK sessions in order for it to do anything. And I started thinking of it as a crutch. So I got off the Ormus for like 30 days and I was still doing TK without the Ormus. So yeah, don't let yourself think, I can only do it when this is happening, or it only works well during a full moon, because there's so many unseen variables. There's no way to really say that this is what makes it work, So just like when you're doing anything, just try different things, see what's working for you, but don't put it in the bank that says, okay, I'm really good at moving this because it worked well one night. Because, like you said, you go back the next night and not so good. I think we all experience that. If I can say one thing about psychic abilities with confidence, is that it's unpredictable. You can't force it. You know, it's just something that has to flow, and you getting yourself into the right mindset and energy and everything to let that flow happen is your part of it. But I think, yeah, I think reality has its own ways, and just like the seasons, you know, and now is the time, at least where I live, that the trees are shedding their leaves and they're shutting down for winter type thing, and it's a whole different mode. I spend a lot of time in the wilderness, and it's a whole different feeling or vibe this time of year. So I think that's true for humans too. There's a time for learning. A lot of these younger, I don't have a lot of younger viewers. My demographic is 30s and 40s primarily, but I do have some young viewers, and they get frustrated because they can't do telekinesis. But I wasn't doing telekinesis when I was 18. I was chasing girls and getting drunk and smoking joints and doing, you know, crazy stuff. So there's a time and place for everyone. And if you're trying psychic abilities and it's not working for you, maybe there's something else in your timeline that you should be focused on now. And the psychic abilities will be something you can do a bit later. Don't ever try to force it, but dabble in everything and find out what works. And when you find something that works, you know, pursue it, build on it, and share what you learned with others. That's kind of how the psychic ability community is going to grow, is everyone sharing their individual experience, but realizing that this is not, you know, a set path for everyone. You can just say, this is what worked for me. I hope it helps you, type of thing.
Yes, yeah, I think so too. And I do think that like the frustration can be hard. Like I had a point where bending fork tines was easier and bending spoons is easier. And then I went through this period where it was hard and I gave up and I felt frustrated and I don't know, I was angry nearly. Why isn't it working? And I'm doing everything the same. And so then that's exactly what I did. I was like, okay, well, I'm just not going to bend cutlery for a while. I'm going to focus on my remote viewing and then I'll come back to the cutlery. And I do think you're right that I don't know, it is a state of mind. It is being open. It is, you know, Joseph is it Gallenberger? Oh, I can't believe I'm blanking on his name. He wrote Liquid Luck.
I'm not familiar.
Joe Gallen, someone in the chat. Is it Joe Gallenberger? There are too many syllables. I'm getting that wrong. Anyway, he does micro PK in Vegas, and he does these weekends in Vegas. He teaches people, and then they go down, and then they try to affect the slot machines at the roulette wheel, and they get amazing results. And he talks about, you know, having this kind of open-hearted attitude of just kind of loving, flowing, happy, joy. I think for me that there's something to that. I think, you know, I've seen people use more of an angry shouting at the fork to get it to bend. I've seen people use that, and maybe that works for them. I think for me that when I'm feeling really joyful, I think that works for me. So yeah, I think people have to, if you're getting frustrated, then probably do something else, but also just realize that, you know, it's hard to do, and so maybe you have to just keep trying. You have to just keep at it with remote viewing. You have to practice. That's what everyone says when people ask remote viewing gurus, like, well, how do I get better? What's the magic trick? And they just say, well, you have to practice. You have to do it every single day, or, you know.
Very true. And Electric Back Channel says, I'm a massage therapist and I do Reiki at work, and I tap into my guides, wanting to learn how to channel the energy with my hands more. Yeah, that's tricky. I've worked with a lot of Reiki people who are seriously top-notch energy healers, and converting over to the telekinesis thing is very difficult for them. And I'm not exactly sure why, because it seems like it would be going from riding a bike to a mini bike, or, you know, that it would jump over. But my advice to you is just stick with it. Relax. Don't try very hard. And practice that moving your attention within your body, putting all your attention into your left hand until you feel the pulse in your left hand, and move it to your right hand. And when you get good at that, the key to getting the energy to go beyond your body is physical relaxation for me. where I get to where I don't feel my body a lot of times, especially when I'm doing like no hands telekinesis. I lose touch with my physical sensations altogether. Like someone could be poking me and I wouldn't even feel it, type of thing. So yeah, just stick with it. If you're good at Reiki, you can do TK. I guarantee it. But it's a different modality, and you just need to relax more and try less. That's my advice.
Yeah.
Matt Katz River said something about you up here. What was it? I forget. Okay, he says, "Wow, I never had that ripping away." I forgot I can do this. Look at that. I'm a big time live stream operator. There you can see what he says. You never felt that ripping away. He thinks you'd be very good at this. I think that was an empathy thing that you were experiencing there when someone snapped you out of it with their voice. I think that might have been big time empathy, and you were feeling it on a physical level. That's really good. Yeah, I think you have the potential to be a good TK practitioner, and I want to see some videos from you on No, I'm just kidding. I would love to see more people. Go ahead.
I want to make some. I want to do some PK video. Yeah, I want to first be able to do it more reliably and then set up my camera, and I do want to start, especially the tines of the fork. The problem I have with spoon bending is that some people, especially men, because they have more muscles, women don't really have muscle, we just have these really small lady hands, but men, I think sometimes they can just use adrenaline and brute force to bend spoons, whereas the tines of a fork, you can't bend that without ripping open, shredding your fingertip. So that's why I tend to prefer using forks, because I find it's more persuasive to myself that yes, okay, that was a really magical sigh the next day, because sometimes the next day you're like, did I really do that? Because that's crazy. That we live in this world where magic is real. So I like doing the forks, because the next day I'm like, yeah, okay, that's clearly that's real.
That's very cool.
Yeah, but I do think that there are techniques that work, and if you don't have the technique, I think you could spend your life trying to bend it and it won't bend. I think it's the same with remote viewing. If you don't have the right technique, you can spend your life trying to improve, but you're not going to improve. I think that visualizing energy, like you said, your intention, moving your attention. I think that there are tricks in there. I think some people are wishing. They're wishing that the spoon will bend. They're hoping that it'll bend. That won't work. It's something different from wishing. Would you not say?
Yes, I've found a strong desire. I think that what blocks a lot of new people who are really excited about it. One, I think your intentions have to be pure. Are you wanting to learn this to harm someone or to impress your friends? Or are you wanting to get a connection with the outer world and, just experience this on a humble level like that? One guy commented that it's very humbling. I think that really improved my gameplay. I was never doing it. In fact, I did telekinesis for over a year before I showed anyone. And when I told my family, I got the reaction I was afraid I would get from everyone. He's either crazy, or this is demonic, or this isn't real, or he's trying to trick me, type thing. Those are the kind of things I feared I would get when I started sharing it with people. And sure enough, that's exactly the sort of feedback I got when I first went on YouTube. I've gone from 90% negative feedback and 10% positive. I've done a complete 180. I'm getting maybe 10% naysayers and haters, and 90% of people are saying, "Oh, this is awesome. I thank you. I finally learned how to do it. This has changed my life," type thing. So, yeah, as far as sharing your telekinesis abilities, it's a good idea to hone your skills a little bit before you go. And I had a hard time. As soon as I turned my camera on, my TK skills would turn off for a while. And I found out that was an ego thing. And the way I overcame that was recording practice sessions. Just turn the camera on, leave it on, forget about it, and just do your practice session. And pretty soon your subconscious mind just gets used to that little red light being on while you practice. And now I can look right at the camera and say, okay, I'm going to do this, and then get myself in the right frame of mind. But I tell you, that took years to get to that point. So when you make your TK video, you might just record a bunch of practice sessions, cut them up, and then you can put your commentary over the top of them, and that'd be one way to get going. Now, at some point, you could be as good as Ricky and just go live on TikTok and say, hey, watch this. That's awesome. I love that. I envy people who can do that. So I'm not saying that's the way to do it, but whatever works for you. I will definitely be watching your videos. So we're going to wrap this up. We've been well over an hour, but how can people find you? What's the name of your channel? Do you have any social media you'd like to share or anything like that before we go?
Yeah, so I have a YouTube channel where I I feel like I need to give a caveat, an explanation for this. So I do some conspiracy theory videos, but mainly flat Earth videos. To me, flat Earth is really important because it represents the freedom of thought and freedom to dissent, and the freedom to think your own thoughts, the freedom to establish for yourself how you know something to be true versus what you believe to be true. I think it's really important to distinguish between these two things, because if you believe something to be true, does that mean you know it to be true? And if you do know it to be true, how do you know it to be true? Because someone important told you is true, right? Important people tell us that psi isn't real, that telekinesis isn't real, but we know that it's real. Important, legitimate people with white coats with letters after their names tell us that remote viewing isn't real, it's impossible, but we know it's real, we know it's possible. And so I think flat Earth, to me, it's a great lens through which we can better explore that. Who are we listening to? And how do we establish these things that we take on blind faith as true? You know, how far is the sun, and how do you know that that's true? And how do they know that that's true? And how was that established? And do you still accept that once you know how that was established, do you still accept that as true, or do you reject it? And so yeah, so my channel, and then also my live streams are me, but my edited videos, I usually use a persona. So I have my Orphan Red persona, and because I think I wanted with my YouTube channel I took it more from an artistic perspective of saying, I want to communicate to people that you should be evaluating the legitimacy of information on its own merits, on its internal logic, on its internal coherence, on the underlying assumptions that the premises rest on that lead to the conclusion that you're taking as truth, right? And so I wanted to bring out this idea that you shouldn't be using attributes of the person who's giving you the information to determine the validity of the information. So if I speak with a low voice, if you hear information from a male voice, a male who wears glasses, a male who wears a lab coat, a male who has a NASA sticker on his lab coat, are you going to take the information he gives you as more likely to be true than if it's a girl in a princess dress on her bed telling you? And if you do take the information from the guy in the lab coat as more likely to be true than the girl in the princess dress, why? And do you know that the guy in the lab coat, the information he's giving you, do you know that it's more true, or is he just giving you the narrative that he's been taught without question, right? And so that's my Orphan Red persona. But my channel is undergoing a change. I want to do something different now for this year, so I haven't quite figured it out, and I might start a different channel for, if I can get PK on camera, then I might start a different channel, or I just have videos on remote viewing and PK, but we'll see if I can get that to happen reliably.
Neat. I really loved your perspective on flat Earth. I mean, you're kind of sweet and bubbly and cute and flirtatious, but your information was spot on, and I have a way of sorting through the BS and looking through all the personas and just getting the facts. And your facts are straight on, yeah. And I don't talk a lot about flat Earth because there's other people covering that, but it is a very important part of my awakening portion. And awakening your psychic abilities also really fine tunes your bullshit meter. You know what I mean? You can start feeling things intuitive, and it really helps you. It won't give you the truth, but it'll help you find the truth a lot easier once you get that intuition and everything rolling. I feel like I could talk to you for hours, and perhaps we'll have you back on again And I'll guarantee we'll have you back on again if I start seeing TK videos popping up on your channel, girl. I would love to see that. But I really appreciate you spending the time to come talk to us about remote viewing. And I encourage everyone to check out our channel. And if you haven't looked into flat Earth, look into it. Looks flat, tests flat, measures flat, might be flat.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Listen, thank you so much for having me. This has been really a lot of fun. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about remote viewing because I'm so passionate about it. But also, I wanted to say, you know, thank you so much for putting yourself out there and being brave enough. It takes courage to do what you do, to put PK videos on YouTube. Like you said, like I'm sure you've received a lot of hate. Everyone on YouTube receives hate, but when you're presenting something that challenges people's blind faith beliefs about what's possible or what reality is like, they really can be hostile. So I just want to say thank you for putting it out there because it inspired me. I've learned so much from you. And every now and again when I need to be reminded, you know, if I have a hard day and if I'm frustrated, I just want to be reminded that this world is a magical place. I'll often go and watch one of your videos and I'm like, there's magic and it's right there in front of you, you know, and our possibilities, we are magical creatures. So thank you for that. Yeah.
Well, bless your heart. That's very kind of you to say. And on that fine note, I think we're going to call it a show. Thank you, everyone in the chat, for joining in. I appreciate your participation as well. And if you haven't noticed, we kind of got a theme here. I'm doing members live streams on the 7th and free streams on the 17th at 7 Central Time. So I hope to see you all again next month. And until we meet again, this is Trevor 7. Good day. God bless. And namaste. Thanks, Sasha.
Good night.
Night.